Good evening and welcome to the Geneva Digital Market 2020, the professional program of the Geneva International Film Festival. This next program was made in collaboration with SWAN, SEJ, and Swiss Next San Francisco. The talk is called and will be about Does AI have a gender? This panel was actually organized in partnership with SWAN, the Swiss Women's Audiovisual Network. It aims to confront perspectives and experiences on the nature of relationship AI maintains with equality, diversity, and justice in the creative industry. And trying to answering the following question: Can AI bridge the gender gap, and how? I'm happy now to give the word to Gabrielle Bord, director and producer and SWAN co-president, and Stéphane Mitchell, screenwriter and SWAN co-president. Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening. In the name of SWAN, we welcome you warmly to this talk, and a special welcome to our guest speakers to give to all the SWAN members and everybody present here. Did you hear me? Sorry. Did you hear me? Okay, good. Why this talk today? Artificial intelligence has a growing impact on our life and work in the film and audiovisual industry. It defines our future more and more. It's decisive that women are playing a crucial part in it to set directions and goals so that women's interests are taken into account and included. An inspiration for this event today was a discussion about artificial intelligence that was initiated and presented by our sister organization, Women in Film and Television, with Germany, last February at the Berlinale 2020. I give now the word to co-president Stéphane Mitchell, who did such a great work to make this happening in cooperation with GIF and all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Gabrielle. Just a few words about SWAN. SWAN is the Swiss Women's Audiovisual Network, and we aim for gender equality and diversity in the audiovisual industry in Switzerland and across the world and within AI. We have two aims, two ways to reach those goals. It's female career development and raising awareness with events such as the one that you're going to participate in tonight. I just want to quickly thank our partners, the Geneva International Film Festival and the Geneva Digital Market, Swiss Next San Francisco, and a word to our supporters who helped us make this event happen: the Federal Bureau of Gender Equality in Switzerland, Ernst Göhner Stiftung, ARF FDS, which is the Swiss Filmmakers Association, Swiss Image, Swiss Perform, SSA, Swiss Authors Society, SSFA, the Technician Syndicate in Audiovisual in Switzerland, and finally, the Stiftung für Erforschung der Frauenarbeit. And now, thank you so much. Have a great evening. Maike, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Stéphane, Maria, and Gabrielle, for having the great opportunity being here tonight together with the panelists. I was asked to briefly introduce myself. I'm a research fellow at the subject area in game design of Zurich University of the Arts. And I'm also co-head of the festival Refresh. It's an interdisciplinary festival in collaboration with the Immersive Art Space. And I'm doing the festival on behalf of Department Design. The festival is dedicated to interdisciplinary approaches to the arts and the design, and is also challenging disruptive technologies and also immersive technologies for the good of the arts and design. So I hope to see you there soon, because the next edition will be for sure next September. But now enough from my side. I'm incredibly thrilled to have Emilia, Ladan, and Lauren with me here in the virtual room. And I think we would jump into the discussion. So just that you have a brief overview how we're gonna jump into it. Every panelist will have the chance to introduce, to position themselves in a speech of 5 to 7 minutes. And then afterwards, we will have the discussion. Of course, you are able to post your questions in the live stream chat, and then the team of GIF will hand those questions over to me, and I will be able to catch up on them and to ask them on to the specific panelists. So, having said that, we're going to start with Ladan Bouyan-Weiss. She is a lecturer and diversity officer at the Department of Information Technology at HSLU, Hochschule Luzern für Kunst und Design. Her main areas of interdisciplinary research are the field of digital transformation and related ethical aspects to it. But she is also interested in the topic of future workplace and overall the impact of digitization on society. Last but not least, she is also very much into blockchain technology and its benefits for society. Her background is in computer science and cryptography, and I'm highly impressed about that. When I searched Ladan on the net, I always stumbled across it that she is very much convinced that women can highly contribute to digital ethics and to the sustainability of the digital industry. So I couldn't agree more to this. And now I would like to hand over to you, Ladan, with great pleasure. We're going to learn more about your position in the field. Thank you so much for being here tonight. Excuse me, Ladan, we can't hear you.
Oh, sorry. Thank you very much for your kind introduction. As a computer scientist, for sure, I'm naturally excited and interested also in AI as a technology. And because I am very interested in ethics and as a woman who is engaged in many areas of our social life, and I would like to use and apply this technology for sure for reducing, eliminating the gap for genders, for human rights, for against racism, for the good things for the human being on the earth at a global level. But I have a problem with the term of artificial intelligence. Maybe it is a little bit provocation or shocking. I think the artificial intelligence doesn't really exist. And I'm not the first person who's claiming for that. Even Luc Julia, who is the father of Siri, that's really one of the father of artificial intelligence, he claims the same thing. Why I don't like this term? Because it causes fears. It misleads the people to the false or wrong expectations. And what it bothers me the most is it takes our autonomous way of thinking and take the responsibilities. We try to put our responsibility to change and to have a better world to the technical machines instead of to think of that, how we can change it and use the technology to realize it. I think the technology is neutral. The people who applies it or use it, they matter and they cause the results in the positive or negative ways. I'm sure the human being is still more intelligent than the computers because we don't have any computer writing programs or they are able to find some wrong decisions or failure at all. The machines, the computers do exactly what they are expected to do and how they are programmed. That means the intelligence of the people, of the developers, computer scientists, mathematicians, physicists, is what we call intelligence as is a natural intelligence and not artificial intelligence, because every software is extension of natural intelligence that we are using. I think we cannot handle really with the notion of intelligence, even in experts. Among the experts, we don't have a definitive definition for intelligence, how we can claim for artificial intelligence. We can also think of how we define intelligence, what we expect of intelligence. For me, I'm following a school of thinking, and intelligence has to do with innovation. Be curious, be able to break the rules and go to another fields, to leave the comfort zones, to go to explore something else, to have some desires, internal desires, to do some good things for the people, to change. These values, these feelings, these notions are not related to machines, at least not yet. And if intelligence has something to do with emotion, with innovation, I don't know any computer, any machine who handle in this way to go further and to find more good things for the people. I think we should trust in ourselves, take our responsibilities, try to change the bad things, to create good things, new things, and use the technology in this way and the machines. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your input. We jump over to Lauren. Lauren Huret is a Geneva-based media artist, and her artistic body of work ranges from videos, artist books, collages, installations to performances. She developed during her years of artistic practice a sophisticated way of presenting her ideas without showing herself. We're going to learn more about that later. Lauren is particularly interested in demystifying machines, tech mysticism, the influence of media and tech culture on belief systems, the dissemination of content in the internet. And she started actually this week an online residency at Swiss Next San Francisco. And I'm sure also we strive your aims, moving closer, even virtually, to Silicon Valley during the panel. So it's a real pleasure having you here tonight, Lauren. And I would like to hand over the microphone to you. The stage is.
Thank you, Maike. So I'm going to start directly into the subject. So I'm Lauren Huret. I'm a visual artist, and I guess I am a woman, but my identity is to be an artist. I mean, trying to think about the word in a creative way, having a creative approach on all aspects of life, I guess, and then create cultural analysis and objects. Today, I realized that I have only 5 minutes to introduce something of my practice, so I decided to make some kind of performance proposition here, some kind of an holographic experience, to quote Susan Treister. I will present my work as fast as I can, so you'll see images of some of my works, and I will speak about it very fast. This performance will try to point out the speed of information spreading and how, if you've noticed, how, for example, movie and videos, YouTube, TikTok, images spread of contradictory informations are going so fast that the brain has no time to pick anything up but just a general feeling, some key notions maybe, and has no time to have some kind of critical analysis and healthy distanciation. So I started being interested in AI, but more precisely, I started to be interested in how people's imagination around AI works and how people forge an image of AI in their heads and where it comes from. of course, all influenced by works of fiction, media, literature, etc., and all things we consider, cultural assets. And also, for example, science, when explained books or magazines, are part of that cultural assets. So I started digging in AI because I was seeing that word everywhere back in 2014, and apparently it was an AI winter, as we call it now, meaning some breakthrough discoveries around AI happen, like machine learning combined with computational brute force becoming more and more powerful. So back in the days, I was working as a research assistant at the art school here in Geneva, and I was following up research projects, and I became very interested by a sociological and anthropological approach and research methods and protocols to basically know what's going on in people's head. And I was very much drawn to that, to learn about that. So I wrote a questionnaire with 38 questions, some very basic, some more complex about, people's relationship to AI, to computers. And I submit that questionnaire to approximately 100 persons. I guess the most gendered question that I wrote without knowing was question number 5. The question was asking people to answer about their AI knowledge, and they had to evaluate it on a scale to 0 to 10. And what happened is that most of people identifying as women were responding a number between 0 and 4, and people identifying as men were responding a number between 6 and 10. So I was clearly seeing a lack of confidence here from women and an overconfidence from men regarding their knowledge about a computer-related field, a science field, and the computer and the knowledge was similar. No participants, for example, were being able to recognize that Google search engine is a very powerful program that we can compare to AI. Another thing is that the people I've asked to fill that questionnaire, they were picturing AI more like a Terminator figure, some kind of humanoid object, very masculine, muscular, powerful, very rough, close to a military imagination. So never had an example of a feminine or, I would say cultural object here in that questionnaire. Then for that specific project, I went to Silicon Valley in 2015 and I interviewed a programmer, historian, a cultural analyst and philosopher, a programmer, entrepreneur, and a legendary figure of counterculture in San Francisco. And I simply asked them what was AI for them. Some of the first images you've seen in the background are collages I made from a magazine called Byte, which was essential to computer culture. And I discovered that many ads were referring to magic abilities, magic powers, gurus, and religion, and so on. So at the opposite, we would say, to logical and mathematical field. Women were also pretty much left out of this representation on ads and other articles and just only seen as secretaries. So I was really digging in computer beliefs, computer imagination, and mythologies, and this led to a lot of different types of works like video, publication, and performances. One of the performances you can see now is a performance I created along with American artist Hunter Long. It's a performance called Deep Blue Dream. The performance was all about resurrecting an old computer. In this case, we chose Deep Blue, the IBM program, famous for having beaten Garry Kasparov to chess in 1997. I think I am not so much interested in computers in that sense, but much more about humans for trying to pretend to be something else. In that performance, the retired computer is telling its story and then start bugging, shut down, and then slowly reveal who's in the room, the names of the spectators, and start displaying their online information like pictures, bio, Facebook profiles, and so on. I think here what was important for us is that usually people already believed in the computer being able to recognize and identify them easily. But in fact, it was just us all along, and we were trying to identify people in the room hidden behind curtain with some very basic tools. We were just using the computers as an interface or even as a puppet to prove our point. That our imagination was already prepared to receive the fact that computers can display a lot of human qualities. So in that sense, we were hidden behind the screen, Hunter and I, just mechanical Turks, and now we call this heteromation. a term that means work that is supposed to be done by computers, but actually is made by humans, and it needs humans' cognitive abilities to be done. Our own imagination and assumptions tend to believe really hard in computational abilities with the help of companies, works of fiction, enthusiastic articles, but more than what computers can actually execute. It's an illusion. That's what I'm interested about, our tendency to be fooled. And it's so easy to be fooled by something we don't understand properly. We need critical and creative approaches in these fields because, for me, technology reproduces system in place, and especially racist and misogynistic behaviors. We need to change that. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lauren, for your inspiring performance. We will catch up later on what we've seen and what you've told us. Now I would like to jump over to Emilia Rogue. She is Executive Director and founder of Center for Intersectional Justice. The Berlin-based organization is combating intersecting forms of inequality and discrimination in Europe. Emilia worked extensively on human rights issues at the UN, for example, and for other international organizations in Tanzania, Kenya, and Cambodia. And while also searching on your work in the internet, I stumbled across one of your quotes where you say that intersectionality is a decisive tool for those that are marginalized and for society in general, to hear different kind of voices, diverse voices. And of course, we are more than interested in learning more what you actually do as a person at the Center for Intersectional Justice and to learn more about your positions. So thank you for being here tonight, and I would like to hand over to you.
Thank you so much for the invitation. I'm really looking forward to also the conversation afterwards. But I would like to start my very quick talk by a video, which I will comment later on. So I will, without transition, share my screen and watch the video with you. Can you see?
Oh, no. Don't worry. It happens. Do you need to go pump?
No, I'm good. Mr. Sanders, is there a problem?
No, no problem.
Because if there is a problem, please don't be afraid to ask for help. We all know how difficult the transition back to work can be. If there's anything that I can do personally to help make it smoother for you, let me know, all right?
All right, thanks.
Have you seen the lounge yet?
No, not yet.
Oh, Josh, give him the tour.
Good.
Oh no, Dave is in the cave! How's it flowing, my man?
This place is amazing.
Great to finally have you down here. What are you pumping? Ooh, Mercedes LS. I've heard about that one.
How's yours treating you?
Can't beat the eye pump. It's just so well designed. I mean, check out this magic.
Call me old school, but I just don't get those fancy motorized pumps. I mean, if you're gonna set time aside, you should get a workout in, right?
Yeah, that's great if you got all day. But this bad boy is guaranteed to pump in 5 minutes or less.
Are you all right?
Do you think our wives have any idea how hard we have it?
No clue.
There's a reason men do this job. Oh, geez, sorry.
It's okay.
Looking at just,
what do you need?
Toner?
A middle shelf.
Here?
Lower?
Oh,
there you
thanks.
go.
Wow, that thing is loud.
Yeah.
Oh, God, sorry.
Okay, so this was the first video, and I like to show it just to show how. Oh,
you know, every parent knows the first year with a baby is both challenging and exciting.
Okay, stop. So I'm moving now to the other presentation that I want to show you. And I hope you see it fine. Yes, you can see it? Okay, perfect. And yes, so I showed you this video simply because it shows us that everything that has to do with research and science and medicine is not immune to the systems of oppression that basically have decided on or that are impacting our world and also our position in this world. And so we can see, for example, that this video shows us that, yes, and that's true. It's, of course, a funny video, and it's not supposed to, I mean, it was supposed to spark a conversation about gender and about the role of the way things are perceived. And in this regard, I'd like to talk about a text that was written by Gloria Steinem, and she wrote, "If Men Could Menstruate." And basically what she said is that there would be absolutely no taboo around menstruation, that we would know everything about menstruation pain, that, we, for example, the disease of, or at least the condition of endometriosis was, there was so scarce research until very recently, and we couldn't really tell what the problem was. The lack of funding as well in research. All of this has to do with the fact that people behind research, people behind medicine are humans, and people who have the power to decide what topics we're going to research on or what diseases are we going to find cures for are not neutral and are not objective. I'm going to give you another example for this. For example, heart attacks. The whole research that was done on heart attacks until this day has been mostly done on elderly white men. And so that's why the symptoms of heart attacks on women were under-researched, and that the death rate of women dying of heart attacks were much higher than men. So it shows us how those biases in research can really have a tremendous impact on our health and on the outcomes. Another solution as well, another example as well, has to do with the contraceptive pill and with contraceptives more generally. And we can see that contraception has mostly focused on women so far, because it's something as well that is not neutral for the body. It's, we need to think about it. It has side effects. Of course, it gives a certain form of control, but also on the other hand, it's also a burden to carry. And we have seen that a lot of diseases and a lot of conditions were linked to bad contraceptives in the past that have impacted generations after the women who took them. And so just all that to say that there is nothing about research and innovation that is neutral, that is objective, and that is not impacted by patriarchy, by racism, and by other forms of exclusion. For example, of people with disabilities and that show us, or people with chronic illness that show us that we should definitely approach the issue in a more intersectional way. So what is intersectionality? Intersectionality is a tool and a theory and a concept that helps us address and analyze social inequalities and discrimination in a holistic way. It means that instead of focusing solely on gender or on race or ethnicity or sexual orientation or disability, we look at the combined effects of these systems of oppression and identity traits on individuals and on our society. And so one question, it could be also, for example, reframed as intersectionality means combating discrimination within discrimination, so making discriminatory patterns within discrimination visible, tackling inequalities within inequalities, and empowering minorities within minorities. So it's not only about having a system where gender equality means that the most privileged women get access, meaning white, heterosexual, middle-class women from the global north, but that really will also include other minority women in that category. And so a question is how much intersectional intelligence in AI there is. So instead of asking the question, does intersectionality have a gender? I'd like to really reframe that question and ask, does intersectionality have a gender, a race, a religion, a socioeconomic status, a nationality, and all of this? Of course, all those categories are really limiting for us. It means that they are projected onto us, and we ultimately want to liberate ourselves from them. And many people see AI as one solution that could liberate ourselves from those really constraining categories. The reality is, yes, it could, but if we don't acknowledge that currently those categories play a tremendous role in creating discrimination and in reinforcing power imbalances, then we won't make it. So, for example, people who, as a way to perform anti-racism, say things such as, oh, I don't see race, I don't see skin color. Those people, obviously they do see skin color. It's not, it's like saying, oh, I don't see your feet, or I don't see your hands. Yes, we do see that. The only thing is that it makes us feel uncomfortable. And instead of confronting the discomfort, then we prefer as well cognitively to believe that we don't see our differences. But our differences need to be seen. They need to be seen in order to dismantle the hierarchy in which they are embedded. And so developers and people who develop AI and algorithms and are not aware of those biases, are not aware of their own position and perspective and take it as universal, run the risk, and actually it's not even a risk, it's already happening, are replicating systems of oppression. And here I'm going to show you two pictures that show that color does matter, that race does matter. It means that if I show you this image, automatically you see that something is not right, because we have subconsciously have images that are printed in our subconscious and that tell us what normality is. And we have a certain view of normality that is a subjective projection of a certain perspective. The second picture is this one. This would also be, now things are changing and we see that the world is evolving, but nevertheless, this picture shows that there's something that is not normal in our perception of things. And so this is why representation alone is not the solution. It means that we need to have as well an awareness about what systems of oppression are, how those systems have created a ladder in humanity and have placed people according to their gender, to their languages, to the way they look, to their body size, to their race, and etc. In this ladder, and that this ladder continues to define a lot of the decisions we make, a lot of the to a very large extent the way we see the world, the way we look at the world. And so I'd like to say that beyond the film and television industry, it's really important to look at how algorithmic bias, so this is exactly those implicit biases which have an impact on or continue to have an impact on or at least this is the replication of the implicit biases, the implicit prejudice of people who develop AI, which flow into algorithms without us noticing. And one way in which this can be also lethal or at least deadly is, for example, in the field of the justice and police system, where we can see that the face recognition softwares that are more and more being used in the judicial system in the US, in China, but also in everywhere in the world, that those are showing a margin of error that is much higher for Black people rather than for white people. And so we see that a lot of people, Black people, are falsely arrested by the police because the face recognition software didn't work. And why is it that Black faces are not as well recognized as white faces? It doesn't have to do with the fact that it's something objectively recognizable, but simply with the fact that there are way too few data on Black people, because as well, this group of, the group of people, this group of the population has not been looked at as a sample in the population that is statistically relevant, which is very problematic. And so AI can define for us a lot of things. It can define who gets admitted to college, who gets fired, who gets that loan, who gets arrested, who gets that promotion, and who gets incarcerated. So that's why AI has a gender, it has a race, but this can change. It can change not only if we include more diversity in the pool of developers working tirelessly on AI, but also if we acknowledge that we all have biases and that if we replicate them from our human biases to machines and to algorithms, they will exponentially be developed because everything is much faster and everything develops much faster in the tech world. So I would like to say that we have the possibility to see the diversity of the human species if we start acknowledging that our differences are not the problem, but the problem is the hierarchy in which we are all embedded. So I'm showing you a picture to show that diversity is beautiful and we should embrace it. And by seeing this, we understand how some bodies have been excluded because seeing them is not part of our normal perception of reality. Thank you so much, and I look forward to the conversation.
Thank you so much, Emilia, for sharing your slides with us and giving us like an overview on your positions. Maybe just like to really start at Institute for Intersectional Justice.
Center
what are the topics you are these days working on in particular? Do you have an agenda over the year, or do you catch up with people that pose some questions to you that they want to have answered? So maybe you can just give us a brief introduction and how your daily work life looks like and with whom you are in contact.
Mm-hmm. So we're in contact of a wide variety of partners. So we work with the public sector, so with governments, with the EU. We also work with private companies, but also increasingly as well in the film industry and in the cultural and arts field, and the music industry as well. And so wherever we can impact change, whenever we are in front of people who are serious and intentional about bringing change, we like to engage with them. And so our work is centered around 3 pillars. The first pillar is advocacy. The second pillar is research. And the third pillar is trainings. And so all across those activities, we structure our work. And it means that we're also very flexible. It means that we adapt as well to the current situation. So needless to say that in the past month, we've had to change course many times. And that's really also the beautiful thing about CIJ, that we can and are not really rigidly attached to certain deliverables that we had fixed 5 years ago, but that we can really go with what is needed and who needs it. And I really, really enjoy this flexibility because I feel like this is where we have the most impact.
Okay, thank you. Ladan, following your speech, I also formulated a question. And it's about like the topic that pops out everywhere when we talk about AI. That's singularity. So, I mean, it's widely used. Stephen Hawking focused it. Now Elon Musk is talking about it, and it of course causes a lot of fear in the minds of the people. But now, following your speech, I have the feeling that you don't really believe in such power of machines, and that you see the problem somewhere else. So it's not the machines wiping us out or enslaving us. It's us humans. And therefore, I would be interested in your position on this overall topic when it comes to this term singularity. And if it wouldn't be better to join forces to think more about like a digital ethic instead of putting too much fear into this term.
I fully agree with you. I don't understand the intention of such intelligent people, natural intelligent people like Elon Musk. Even Bill Gates had in early 90s such statements. And I expect from them that they know from what they are talking. I don't understand why they do it. If you look at it, AI is also a complex field. There are different subsections of AI. One of them is what we call it, I forgot the term, evolutionary AI, for example, that tries to have some population of algorithm that they are updated to the next generation, and we are going to eliminate, which is less desirable and change some things and go to the next generation. The idea is to have impact on the environment, on our civilization, and change it. Okay, and a little bit to simulate the brain. For sure, it causes fear when you hear of that. Who is doing that? To which, for which goals? Why they do it? Why they use the machines to do it? And their answer to these questions are not clear. They're always is, we are going to do it. The machine will take power and so. And if you look at the people, that was a dream of the people to have some super man, super human with I don't know, a very big body with some power, doing physically difficult tasks at lightning speed. Even in medieval time, the people dreamed of this. It is enough to look at the Jewish medieval literature. You see Golem. Golem is one of these that we wanted to have. And at the same time, the people were scared if this powerful Golem or Frankenstein or all recently take the power and try to control us, what would be the result? And putting in this direction and making fear, I don't understand it, because again, the technology is neutral. The people behind it, as Lauren said also, they are not neutral. What I would like to emphasize also is it's not for the first time that they do it by AI. We're talking about malwares as viruses. Computer scientists have some viruses, or on your computer you can have some virus. Why this term to using? It is a piece of software, and it is some competition to people who develop the malware and the viruses, and the people who try to detect them and neutralize them. And if you look at that as a software, you are not worried about it. You know it is something you can handle it. The other one who finds some problems in the software in the other side can neutralize this software, either as a malware or as an antivirus. And I can't understand the choice of this terminology.
Thank you for elaborating on this. Lauren, when I prepared myself for your talk, not only I stumbled across your artistic approach, how do you see your own individual entanglement with technology? I mean, you have done almost like this body scanning meditations already to show like our weird relationship with technology. And then you now also showed like how technology alienates us as human beings because we are so focused to deal on a daily basis with it, and we don't want to miss it, but sort of sometimes it would be better to reflect on it. And there is one work in particular that really, really deeply touched me, and I really would like to talk with you about it. It's the one you did for Hack, where you did like a documentation about the work of people based on the Philippines that sort of clean up the internet for us of violence and violent content, or of content that is discriminating minorities. And I think it really shows us very good, this project, how we blindly trust in that what companies tell us what they are able to do, because you show us that there are actual people behind that that have to deal with these really awful images on a daily basis. But those big companies, they call it like it's an algorithm. So maybe you can elaborate a bit on that.
Yeah, of course. Thanks, Mikey, for this Very interesting question. So this is one of my last research was actually on content moderation, meaning I was super interested in, like, now we call it heteromation, but at that time when I became interested, there was not really a term for that. So we call them Potemkin AI. So mean like an illusion of some kind of automation process. So the illusion of automated processes is really coming from, I would say, companies' imagination. So when you use social media, for example, and you post content online, basically sometimes if you maybe some people had the experience of like posting a picture of, like, for example, a woman giving, you know, like breast to her baby, and then she got censored, for example. Like, woman breasts are very much censored on Facebook, for example. And this is partially an automated process, but mostly it needs human cognitive ability to recognize the context and the image. This is not like some super powerful software using image recognition making decision. And it's actually a vast pool of laborers, of workers. Mainly, I would say the company use colonial roots. So basically, you can say for the US, the job is mainly done, for example, in the Philippines, in Manila. For French content, it's mostly done in North Africa or West Africa, in all the colonial country owned by France, for example, and so on. So this work was really trying to focus and to bring awareness and attention on, like, how we use social media, and especially the horrible work that is has to be done by humans. So basically, this job is to look at horrible things all day, be like beheadings, rapes, torture videos, and all type of like very, very problematic and violent content. And those people are usually show symptoms of PTSDs very quickly. The condition of works and the payment is not great. I went to Manila and I did research, and I was also with a lot of journalists, like work in contact. I was in contact with journalists working on that case, and it's something that a conversation start to happen around that, but companies are very gifted to make us think that things like work magically, and this is also like some aspect of my work, try to understand this magical aspect of like automated processes, and like really try like how our brain is easily fooled by something that looked automated, and then we're just tend to think like, oh, it's magical, it works, it's amazing. But when there's a lot of laborers, a lot of underpaid laborers, usually from countries where the salary is not great and the conditions of works are not great.
Okay. Thank you for elaborating on that. Maybe for those of you who are interested in learning more about your artistic project, maybe we should title it, it's A Brain for My Haters. It's the work from 2019, and you find some information on that also on the website of HACK. I can highly recommend you to really check on that. Ladan, that has also a bit, it's a bit entangled with the presentation of Emilia. There is one field of application of AI in our everyday life where its impact on society is fundamental. I'm talking about face recognition software, predictive policing, and those risk scores we heard about recently. And due to this screwed up data sets, people of color are being treated highly unfair and are harmed in incredible ways. And I've been reading about a call for the banning of face recognition software. And I just wanted to hear your thoughts about that. Because, I mean, we've learned about like those data sets where the machines are trained with, they are so screwed up that there is only one conclusion. And I highly agree with this call that we should turn those surveillance cameras off. Maybe also, Emilia, if you would like to add something on that, you are also highly welcome to jump into the discussion.
I think there are many problems with this algorithm. We start with training. The word training. The training means we imagine that we show some pictures to the computer, and the computer starts to understand that is a cat, or that is a boy, or that is a dog, and so on. As Lauren said, it is the work of the human being, people, awfully paid. I saw also an investigation from a French journalist. She found out the people are paid for 25 cents for hour that they are tagging these pictures. And even ILO, International Labour Organization in Geneva, said that is awful. First of all, we have to think of this. For what reason we use this amount of data and we pay so awfully to people to tag them? What is our purpose? Point one. Point two, if we look at the carbon footprint, we use amount of data just to recognize the face. And it is really energy consuming, such an algorithm. Again, what is the purpose of doing that? A 3-year-old girl or boy, after 100 pictures of a cat, is able to recognize a cat immediately. What type, what kind, what color, and with which light of the day. The cat is cat. The baby can recognize it. But the computer needs more than 1 million pictures, and under these circumstances. Okay, and again, if we say we want to use it for some good purposes, because normally they will come and say, oh, there are some criminals, there are the terrorists, we need the cameras to recognize them for the security and for the security of the people, security of the nation. Okay, fine. If it is the goal, why couldn't we build up a team from different people, young people, old people, colored people, that these people decide how we are going to design this program to recognize the faces. The approach is also, I will say, old. It is participatory design. It is the origin is from Scandinavian. It is in the 80s. They started to work with a participative process for everything, for production or product design, for some environmental projects. For example, to have a park in an area of a city, they have asked the people who live there and involve everybody, not just young people, not families, older people. I think if the goal of such a programs are not clear for what reason, but which purpose, we want to have this algorithm with all these negative sides, we should stop it. But if we want to use it, we have some benefits for the people. I think multidisciplinary a team which is really diverse with different people should decide. The end user should be involved from the beginning for the design of such a programs.
Thank you. Emilia, do you want to add something?
Yeah, I'd like to say that I agree that as long as there is no awareness, or at least not enough awareness on algorithmic bias and the way it impacts the lives of people of color, and Black people, it should be suspended. And so I saw today on social media that Joy Bulamwini, who is an expert on algorithmic bias, met with Kamala Harris. So I imagine that things are moving in that respect and that we can hope for the best. But as long as it's not the case, lives of innocent people are being impacted negatively. And so we should put a halt on this for sure.
Thank you. I have a follow-up question for you, and it's about if you see any positive, remarkable actions on governance level that take on the call for establishment of binding digital ethics. Would you mind to give us some examples? I think you come in contact with those representatives on the governance level.
Mm-hmm. Well, I know that some efforts are being undertaken in specific political parties and like some, people in the political field, in the policy field, but I'm not as close as to say that I have best practices that I can share. I can say that it's a topic that is moving up on the political agenda, and I think it's a good thing, but I am not sure that so far, especially in Germany, there have been good practices on this or like best practices on this.
Which is a real pity, unfortunately. Yeah. Lauren, the creative industry is tackling one question a lot these days. If you dive yourself through like magazines and different kind of digital platforms, and it's about co-partnering with AIs, with machines for the greater good, for a better artistic output. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are about that. You're still muted, unfortunately. Yeah, thank you.
Sorry. What do you mean by co-partnering with AI for the creative industry? I'm not sure I understand really the question of like, can you be a bit more precise?
Of course, yeah. I mean, it's more like to have to elaborate yourself, or to to gain a certain curiosity due to the fact that you work together with the machine, because the machine is showing you patterns, the machine is searching the network, is seeing artistic practices, scanning them, and then making suggestions. And this is something like the creative industry, not only the film industry, but also like the design section in total, is thinking that this is highly interesting to team up with machines to be better, to have a better output.
Yeah, as I think it can be always interesting to team up with machines, as long as we create a good program that, as the conversation goes with all of us right now, we really understand that it's humans behind machines, it's humans with bias, and like as long as we create like a program that makes sense and that recognize the hierarchy that we are in, as Emilia just said, I think it can be really interesting. For example, I just learned about this book that just this researcher Lev Manovich just released. So I didn't not read it, but it's called Cultural Analytics. And for example, Lev Manovich with his team is going to try to analyze cultural objects on the internet and see, what's analyze pattern, and analyze all this data to see if there is pattern of like basically all the material that is going online. And that's very much an area of interest for me, because I think the status of images and the status of arts and content is very much shifting to something else, because I don't think we've ever been like as, like emerge and by images and by content that we are now in the history of humanity. So I think it will be for me, it's one of the core questions of my work is like how the human brain is dealing with all that information and how we can deal with, for example, the question from last year for me was how we can deal with problematic content. If you see something gruesome online, how can you deal with that as a human? Like what are the psychological effects? And so I think in the arts and the creative industry, it's very, very much interesting to partner with machine as long as you do not create the illusion that machines can do it all. And, we very much need as humans to keep the control of inputs and outputs and not try to pretend to have some kind of PR discourse on magic abilities of computer, because it's and as Ladan as very much, exemplify that, it's not a virus, it's a software. It's just words, and our imagination runs so fast on it. And I think as visual artists, we need to reimagine this kind of paradigms.
Thank you. Maybe this question goes to Emilia and Ladan. So I had the feeling that while diving through this topic, in the last week, that one of the core problems why those data sets are so screwed up is that people working in this field, like in the software engineering field and computer science, are mainly men. This is maybe one problem. We can see concrete numbers. It's really not encouraging. And I was wondering if this would help out of your perspective, facing the problem, if all of them, of those people working with those algorithms, working with machine learning, that they have to attend courses on ethics. If you see that we could bring AI in the direction that it serves society when they incorporate this kind of knowledge while building such systems.
Well, yes, I think it's necessary, but there needs to be, we are asking people to unlearn a life, basically. They need to unlearn the way they have seen the world so far, and that's a long time, right? So it's not something that can easily be tackled through trainings. I mean, having trainings is better than nothing, but it's not enough. So I think we need to reshape the world in parallel, and that's of course a lot to ask. And that's it's not a change that can be done overnight, and it's not enough to just have a strategic plan with a number of trainings. We need to work as well in concert with content producers, and content producers are the ones who make films, television, series. Netflix is really instrumental in that regard. And so that's why none of this can happen just by focusing on AI. We need to work with the education field as well. We need to work with the younger generations. And so unlearning a life, as I like to say it, is more like unlearning a perspective, unlearning our lifelong perspective. How do we learn today to not see thin bodies as more beautiful than fat bodies? How do we learn that? It is so emotionally, so deeply ingrained in us that a lot of this needs more than just this. And so that's why we also need diversity to be reflected in those teams. We need to have people with disabilities, Black people, fat people. We need to have, people of all ages present in those teams. We need to have the variety of perspectives that we grew up with. All the biases are the same all across the board. I have the same biases as a white person. They affect me differently, but I do have them. A person with disabilities have the same biases as I do have them. They impact them differently than it does to me. So that's why We need to confront this reality and understand, deconstruct this hierarchy. We need to divest from it. And currently, I see that we're far away from this because we don't even see it. And so the first step, even before we try to think about trainings and all of this, we need to recognize that our humanity has been divided into different groups and that are all placed in a ladder. And this ladder is the problem. We need to divest from it. You're on mute.
As we have probably, thank you, Emilia, as we have probably an audience out there highly related to the film industry. You mentioned it already briefly, the entanglement of the film industry and all this, bringing up those biases, reproducing the biases. I had the feeling that Netflix was really like this company pushing the awareness of the potentials of AI forward for the film industry. And it was with this recommendation algorithm. We've all heard about it. YouTube is using it invasively. And there is a call in the film industry that you should stop trusting your gut, your intuition. And it would be very better to incorporate like those smart systems such as artificial intelligence to help getting better at the back office, of course. And I was wondering what your opinions are on that, because we've heard a lot of positions during this panel already that the problems are somewhere else and that we don't get better, also not content-wise, in the film industry if we just invite artificial intelligence to enter like this field of profession. You know, it's more like about thinking more in general. But as we have this film audience and we can see in Silicon Valley a lot of companies in this field just like growing out of nothing, I think that's worth to tackle in this panel, and it's open to everyone of you three to jump into the discussion. Emilia, do you have an opinion on this? You are still muted, unfortunately.
Yeah, no, I had like a problem with the connection like in the past 2 minutes. And so that's why I wasn't sure if it cut and then I heard you. Could you repeat the last sentence? I'm sorry. I heard the rest of it. It's just the last sentence, the last.
Well, now I have to think. I have to recall. I just was wondering that, or I just noted that I think even though there is like this growing interest of the industry in this very specific field, and we see a lot of young entrepreneurs jumping into this enterprises and building companies around AI, I think it is worth to say it again here that this is not making like the end product better by heart, because we have to start thinking differently about it. And I just wanted to hear your voices around this topic. So because now I had the feeling maybe the film industry is desperately waiting for AI to find new topics and new stories and stuff. So
we should not rely on AI for this. It could be completely disastrous. So the work that needs to be done, and I think currently we see that what humans have been doing in the film industry, or at least in parts of it, has been very positive. We see that a lot of stereotypes have been deconstructed, that new storylines are being created to incorporate a larger variety of our human experience. And this has been done by people. I mean, of course, AI has been involved in it, but, you know, why stop where we have done already so well? So, of course, I mean, you know, capitalism is the reason and we want to sell, but wanting to sell in a world that is built on those hierarchies and that continue to discriminate is, I mean, economically, it does make sense. Humanly, it makes absolutely no sense. So this is something we need to think about. And I think there is more and more awareness on this. And I think that we are also going through a paradigmatic shift by all humanity. And that's something that is bigger than us. And I have tremendous hope that I think we are on the right path, even though it sounds or it seems in many respects counterintuitive to think. Maybe that's just my optimism and the fact that I'm genuinely hopeful. that makes me think this way. But yeah, those voices need to be stronger and louder.
I realized we have some questions in the chat. Marie was so kind to share them with us, and now I work myself through it because we have only 10 minutes left, and of course I would like to include the audience out there and to give them the chance that you answer their questions. I read myself through. So there's a really interesting one. So it's maybe potentially addresses to all of you. So do you think a growing use of AI could contribute to the dissolution of the concept of gender itself?
Can I answer that? Or maybe no, Lauren wanted to answer. It's okay.
No, you can answer, Emilia.
Okay. AI has endless possibilities. So yes, it would have the possibility to deconstruct gender. But again, as we've been saying, it's not possible under the current circumstances because we, as humans, have not deconstructed gender. It's a very short answer, but maybe, yeah. Lauren can also
No, I think like, you know, what a big topic would be in the arts was everybody's like really interested by this idea of the cyborg, and you know this Donna Haraway you know concept that if we want to escape gender, we can use the figure of the cyborg, and that was a big thing like in this Donna Haraway text, the Cyborg Manifesto, which is pretty big in the art, you know, in culture. People are still talking about it as a way to escape gender. I think I would follow on Emilia about AI and like everything that we just said. Like it's humans behind the AI, and that's as humans, and it's mostly, you know, as I studied in the field in Silicon Valley, it's mostly white men, so the biases are going to be reproduced as long as there will not be more diversity and more diverse people involved. Regarding like this question of like AI not being gendered, I think it's false. That's what we've been saying all along.
Ladan, do you want to say something, or?
I just would like to add again. I think we could start to reduce the gap instead of deconstruct the illusion. If the government help and work with open data, for example, and a very nice AI program can show again, because it is really well known that the women are less paid with the same qualification for the same responsibility at the work. If they can use different data, for example, with an AI program quickly shows in different branches, in different countries, how the inequality still exists. That is a very good application of AI, that they can recommend the new or the same direction of films, movies, or books, or shirts to buy it, and the companies can win more and more money. That is clear to all of us. The people are happy that they get the same thing. And again, I appeal to say, think of diversity, have something else, not just follow the recommendations. Many interesting things are outside of our circle. And the other side, we have to know that is the machine to win money, to gain money. And if we can use AI for such things and show to people how injustice is there for the payment of women and men, it would be very nice application of AI and reduce the gap between men and women.
Thank you. I think what we've learned during the course of the panel, there is a lot to do still to make AI a great benefit for society, for a diverse society. And of course, if we face the title of this panel, I mean, is does AI have a gender? Unfortunately, yes. Until now, it does have one, but we have to change this with regulations on governance level, with calling for digital ethic, with calling for those who are until now, left out in the discussion around the production, like the development of artificial intelligence and its implementation. And what I also think is highly necessary, Emilia voted for that, that we have on educational level courses that tackle these kind of awareness, because otherwise hardly any child knows in particular where we use AI today and what problems arise when we use those technologies. So I think we have to start very basic in teaching and learning, and also like always remind the industry that they have to change. And maybe let me close with this. I don't personally have the feeling that creativity is being like pushed due to the fact that we have those really smart machines around us. It's still us humans. And we learned during the conversation that the machine is nothing without us humans that input those machines. So maybe take this at the closing word. And I really like to thank you all for this very vivid discussion. And I would like to hand over to Marie, who's already on. And I would like to hand over the microphone to you.
Yes, thank you very much for joining us tonight. It was a very, very interesting discussion. Thanks again. I wish you all a very nice evening and hope to meet you in person very soon.
Thank you, Mary.
Thank you so very much. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye. Bye-bye. Thanks
Thank
again.
you, Mary. Thank you.
Thanks again for joining us tonight. We want to thank again Swan for collaborating with us on this topic and on this talk tonight. So join us tomorrow for a new program. We will have a program called Innovative Strategies for Digital Museology. And this is a program that will start tomorrow at 10. And this is in collaboration with Virtual Switzerland. Have a lovely evening and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.